part 2 of Deuteronomy 28, and it says verse 37. This is part 2 of Deuteronomy 28. I did something on part 1. I got verse 37. It says, "You shall become an astonishment of a proverb and a byword among all the nations where Yah shall lead you." It says YHWH, Yahuwah. And astonishment means as sad or pitiful as amazement, so remarkable, so the illicit disbelief. The general attitude of some so-called blacks is disgraceful, that it motivates other races to observe us with an astonishment. This is the reason many people are always asking the question, why are blacks behind? They should be ahead of the other groups since they have been here for over 400 years. So-called African Americans have become an astonishment to the world. Other people are looking at us, wondering why can't and haven't prospered in the richest nation on the earth as the other ethnic groups, including to the Jews, descendants of Esau. We don't deal with them because Most High has a perpetual hating of them. The word proverbs and bywords actually have the same meaning. Here in the verse 37, a proverb and a byword are objects of general reproach, dispersion, and effort or scornful nickname. These proverbs and bywords are nicknames that are used in a scornful manner in substitution for our true nationality. Names such as nigger or nigga, that a lot of people say, that's a proverb and a byword. It's not a curse word. Negro, that's something they made up. Coon, you hear that a lot on YouTube and all other places. Blackie, I've heard that in high school by a so-called white person, an Edomite guy. He said that he was all red in the face, pale face guy, and he's the one said that to somebody, and then they got in a little scuffle. Spade, that's an old one. Spade, Blackie's old one. Coon is old one. Nigger is old one. And porch monkey, I heard that in the comment board. Porch monkey. I heard that in the when I was on the social network with someone called dark skinned person a porch monkey, and so on and so on. These names are without a doubt proverbs and bywords, but some are the names of the But so are the names of so-called African Americans and blacks, because they are also substitution for Israel. They're a substitution for Israel true nationality. Let me explain. Africa is not a tribe, country. Africa is not a tribe, country, language, or nationality. Africa is the name of a continent. It is the second largest landmass in the world. It has 53 countries with many different people, languages, and culture. Africa is not a nationality because there is not a country on earth named Africa. That's right. Actually, Africa was named after a guy named Scipio Africanus, but his name was Cornelius, and he named the land. Like I say, he got the name after defeating that. That's madness. That's a lie. They're not telling you the truth. He named that land. And then Leo, I think his son Leo, was another Roman general. Remember, his forefathers named the land Africa as well. Those are two Africanus men that are related, I believe. So, yeah. And it says, so you refer to a group of people as African in reference to their national origin. The ancient Egyptians, known as the Watusis and the Zulus, today, the Watusis and the Zulus are the ancient Egyptians today, and the Nubians are the Somalians and things like that. Nubians. But Hebrews and other people who are indigenous to that continent neither mentions a place called Africa. So the Hebrews they're talking about is the Benjamins and Lowites. The Lowites are scattered in Europe and certain parts of West Africa, like people would say, is really eaten. The Lowites are really in Haiti, or certain places in Europe. I believe we got certain blacks in Europe. The head tribes are in the Western Hemisphere and the Western civilization today. That's my belief. I did some research on that. And the continent never mentions a place called Africa, and that's because the name Africa is a Latin in its origin. It's a really a Roman Latin word. The name comes from the Roman who spoke Latin. The name comes from the Roman who spoke Latin. So the Romans spoke Latin. Edomites, by the way. Africa has become synonymous with black and black-skinned people for the simple reason that the majority of the people who reside on the continent are black-skinned. That's retarded. It really means dark, the collective people, and the majority of the dark-skinned people, they would say black-skinned on this information, people around the world have some kind of ancestral ties to that continent. But all of this doesn't change the fact that Africa is the name of the continent, not a race or a group of people. Most of black people did not come from Africa. That's a lie. They all came from the eastern Eden, known as Mesopotamia today. Everybody started from that middle and migrated areas, as you know, as the land of Ham and Shem and Japheth today. The Japhetic people are the indigenous people, the Mexicans, the Olmecs, and all them today. I did a video called The Sins of Japheth. It's on Daily Motion. You can check it out. I might do a part series who the Japhetic people are today, who they really are, and I'm going to break down who they really are. If I get some books, who they are, that's a future topic I'm going to get in. That's what I might do. Okay, the same can be said for America. It's not a country, tribe, nationality, or language. America is also name of a continent. It is divided into three parts: North, Central, and South. The United States is a country on the continent of America. And in the United States, you have every ethnicity. You have every ethnicity, racial group living here. All these groups can name their national homeland, no matter how long they have resided in this country. For example, Germans are from Germany. Irish are from Ireland. Italians are from Italy. Mexicans are from Mexico. Chinese are from China. Ghanaians are from Ghana. Ethiopians are from Ethiopians, known as the Babylonians in the Bible, from Ethiopia, because they're the Babylonians in the Bible. And Jews are from Europe and Israel, the Edomites, by the way. The Jew, have you seen that how they did that? They said the Jews are from Europe and Caucasus Mountains, descendants of Esau. They said they're from Israel and in the Middle East and Europe, Caucasus Mountains. They're all from that. That's descendants of Esau. They exposed that in this article. All these ethnic groups in the United States can do this except the so-called African Americans. We know our foreparents were brought to this country from various West African nations. This assertion, I have used the quotation marks in the word so-called in reference to the names of African Americans, Africans, and blacks. None of these names describe a nationality, name, nation, or national homeland. The word black is an adjective. That's right, the word black is an adjective, and it should only be used to describe a noun or pronoun. For example, a black car, black hair, black shoes, or black skinned people, they would say. There's no such thing as black skinned people. I've never seen a black man in my life. I'm talking about a black man or a white man. Those are describes and adjectives. That's madness by the descendants of Esau. They created that up to deceive people. Black does not constitute a nationality. There isn't a place called black country on earth. That's right. Or a person. There's no such thing as a black person. That's made up. If you look it up, the word black in an English dictionary, it's only 500 years old. Those are brand names by the oppressor. You will find at least 35 different definitions out of those 35, more than half will have a negative meaning such as evil, wicked, gloomy, deaf, and unpleasant, just to name a few. But these false names were placed on us in order to further humiliate us. The reason why I use African Americans and blacks in reference to true Israel was to let you know who I was speaking about. But now you know, so from here on out, I will only use the names Israel, Hebrews, and Israelites in reference to the people who are called African Americans and blacks. That's why we say so-called. A majority of the Israelites that I've met use the word so-called. I use the word so-called in one of my other videos. Many people in Israel are anointed today to give you this message. Hope you enjoy the information. Verse 41, you shall beget sons and daughters, but you shall not enjoy them, for they will go into captivity. The Bible tells us that the ancient Israel went to many captivities. Egypt, Assyria. The 10 tribes was in Assyria, by the way. All of us was in Egypt together, all the tribes, but we was in Assyria. 10 tribes were Assyria, and the 3 head tribes, Yehuda, Benjamin, and Lewites, were in the Babylonian captivity under King Nebuchadnezzar. But this is exactly how we got here. Our foreparents were brought to this part of the world as captive slaves. That's the 3 head tribes, Yehuda, Benjamin, and Lewites, known as Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. The other tribes, like I mentioned, Isaiah 11:11 in my last video. So make sure you read that they're scattered in those lands as well. They skipped 42, so they did verse 43. The stranger which is within you shall get up above your very high, and you shall come down very low. In this verse, the stranger refers to the other ethnic racial groups and other than the children of Israel. This means than the other racial ethnic groups that lived in the same country or the city as the Hebrews will rise up the social economic ladder higher than the Hebrews as a collective people. And because of this, the Hebrews will be brought down to a lowly state. The United States have maintained a racial and ethnic ranking preference that placed Europeans, so-called whites, Asians, Hispanics, and Indians over Hebrews. They have a very high social acceptable, and they were never mistreated by dominant so-called white society. Really, they said dominant white society or government, the way generation after generations of the Hebrews have. Nearly 100% of our ancestors were in this country before nearly 100% of the ancestors of today's Jewish, the Edomites, the Italians, Italian, German, French, Japanese, Chinese, and Hispanics. All ethnic groups rank above us in the acceptable in the U.S. We have been assigned to the lowest level in this country. Verse 44. He, the stranger, shall lend you not into. He shall head you and shall be the tail, not the head, shall be the tail. Let's see. He skipped 42. Why is that? It's only 42 verses, right? They skipped 42. Yeah. They skipped 42. It says, and all thy trees and fruit of thy land shall the locust consumed. That's what it says, but he went to the 43rd verse and he skipped that down, and that's what it says. But yeah, I had Isaiah and get that confirmed. I was in Yeshua, so I went back to my place. I just had to look at that for a minute. Excuse me. And it says, not the head, but all across this country from the coast to coast. If you visit any Hebrew neighborhood, you will see the stranger other ethnic or racial immigrant groups owning nearly 100% of the business located in Hebrew neighborhoods. Hebrews spend 95% of our annual disposable income with business located within white communities. Of the 5% of the remains with our communities, another 3% is spent with non-Hebrew owned business. Within only 2% of our annual disposable income remains with our companies. It is difficult, if not impossible, for us to maintain a reasonable quality of life and economical competitive. The Hebrews take their money to the stranger, which makes jobs available for their people. Jobs made for their people. For their people, while our people remain unemployed. We have the highest unemployment rate in the country, despite the good economy, they would say, but it's not now. It's getting worse now. Only in our community do you find every other ethnic group running the business. For example, the Jews own the currency exchange and banks and lending institutions. That's the sins of Esau today. The Arabs, the Ishmaelites, own the grocery stores, fast food restaurants today. The Asians, Asians known as the Moabites and Ammonites, clothing stores and beauty salons. They're the ones beat us in that competition. We had all these businesses, but we didn't have no banking business, so we don't own all this stuff. So East Indians, the Persians, the Elam, own the convenience stores and gas stations, the 7-Elevens and things like that. While the whites own the rest and the Hebrews own a little, if any, business in our community. We have been brought down low because of all of our economical power is going into the hands of the stranger. This has helped put him in a higher social economic position, thus making the stranger able to lend us, but we can't lend to him. We have to go outside of our community to get loans for just about anything. We have to go to the strangers to get car loans, mortgage loans, business and loans for social community events. And many cases, if the stranger don't loan to or give it to us, we won't get it, because we live never and have full membership in this nation. We are now looking in other ethnic groups as an example we should follow in order to better our condition. If we are willing to follow the examples of these ethnic groups, the strangers, this means that these groups are in the land head, are in the lead. That means head, and we are following them the tail. We're the tail, not the head. The tail, where we at? Scattered amongst the nations and four corners of the earth. That's the three-head tribes, Yehuda, Benjamin, and Levites. That known as Judah, Benjamin, and Levi in your Bibles. This is prophecy. It is the way of Yahuwah, or Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. That's his prophecy. He who creates. He did this so we can learn a lesson, and said it would be, and this is the way it is. The 45th verse. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon you, and shall pursue you and overtake you, till you be destroyed, because you hearken not unto the voice of Yahuwah, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded you. The 46, and they shall be upon you, the 46th verse, and shall be upon you, and for a sign and for a wonder upon your seed forever. No matter where Israel go or what they do, to these curses are going to be upon them, because we are not keeping Yah's laws, which he commanded us to do. Israel, known as Yasharal, in the United States have long forgotten the laws of Yah, and this is the sole reason why we have been in this terrible condition since our arrival here. No matter how hard we try, we never get it right. Yah said the curses are on Yasharah or Israel for a sign. A sign is an indication. Yah uses the curses to indicate who is his true people are. The so-called experts say the curses that are written in Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28 happened to Israel in biblical times. Yes, but says these curses are going to be on Israel's seed. It says Israel's seed descendants. And what does it mean by descendants? Third and fourth generation. That means forever. It says it's going to be forever. This means that they were on Israel in biblical times as long as they transgressed the law, and on us now. And as you see, I am showing how these curses are affecting the Hebrews in the United States. These things are supposed to happen to us by the hand of our enemies, which we can easily prove they are. But Yah says throughout this chapter that we are going to be defeated by our enemies and in their land. If the Jews are descendants of Yasharah or Yisrael or Yasharah, they changed it to Israel today, known as is really Yasharah. They ought to be under the same curses found in Leviticus 26 and 28 chapter. Their condition in this country, every other country therein, should resemble the condition of the true Hebrews of the Western Hemisphere, they say, but we got some in the Eastern Hemisphere as well. In Isaiah 11:11, read that are scattered amongst the nations, the lost 10 tribes. But it doesn't. The Jews are not keeping Yah's laws, and they admit this openly in a book titled How to Introduce Your Jewish Friends to the Messiah. On page 20 it states, the majority of the Jews living in the United States and Israel are not religious. You heard that, didn't you? Those who are religious practice various forms of rabbinic or not biblical Judaism, they would say. Judaism is another form of idolatry, by the way. Yah never gave Israel a religion called Judaism. That's another form of idolatry. So any other form of Judaism is a transgression of a law. Judaism is a man-made. It's not mentioned one time through the scriptures. 89% of the Jews living in Israel today are secular atheists. They are. There are more religious Jews living in New York than they are in Israel. These curses are the greatest tool in identifying who are the children of Israel in the latter days. Yah said these curses are to be for a sign and wonder and on Israel forever. This means that whatever people are suffering from all these curses are descendants of the children of Israel today. I know that the Jews have suffered mistreatment, but so have Irish, Italians, Mexicans. I'll read this again. I'm going to say it like this. It says, I'll read this part. It says, I know the Jews have suffered mistreatment, but so have the Irish, Italians, Mexicans, Japanese, and Chinese, etc. But how many of them have suffered and are suffering according to all the curses written in the book of the law? The answer is none. We fit these curses more perfectly than anybody else. Verse 48. If you don't believe me, watch the video called The Characteristics of Israel. And that's another proof. This is part 2 of Deuteronomy 28. I'm going to finish the verse 48. Therefore shall you serve your enemies with which Yah shall send against you in hunger and thirst and nakedness and the want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck until he destroyed you. Israel and the United States have been in total service to our enemies who have opposed the work against us since the time of slavery. We have continued to serve them in hunger and thirst, nakedness, oppression for over 400 years. If you are wanted of all things, this means that you are materialistic. If you are in want of all these things, this means that you are materialistic, which makes you a consumer. We are the number one consumers in the United States. We buy more products, clothing, cars, computers, etc. than any other ethnic groups in the United States. We constitute only 12% of the total of the U.S. population, but we are responsible for the following of the consumption statistics: 36% of all, 36% of all of hair conditioners, 32% of all malt liquor stores that's set up by the sins of Esau and all that stuff, and movie theater tickets, 30%. So that's what it says. Hebrew females, who constitute 6% of the population, consume 15%, 600 million of the 4 billion cosmetic market. Mostly to maybe line spend 23% more on shoes than the population at large, consume 26 more perfume than any other ethnic group of females. Hebrew males aged 13 and 24, that's my age bracket right there, constitute less than 3% of the population, yet consume 10% of the 12 billion athletic shoe market and more than 20% of Nike shoes. There's videos that brothers made that Nike shoes, they work. Have you seen the one with the shackles? They made videos on that on YouTube. Check those out. There's plenty of stuff on there and all the other video web sharing sites. 55% of the starter jackets, it's 283 million in 1993, are linked to Hebrew buyers. Israelites spent $6 billion per year on soft drinks, more than $500 million on McDonald's fast food, and are twice as likely as whites to own a BMW, Audi. You seen those cars, an Audi or a Mercedes Benz. We spend all this money on materialistic nonsense because we are in want of all things. And the reason for this is we have been in very hostile environment and made to feel like we are nothing more than slaves, animals in a dumb culture, less people. So we attempt to obtain worth and equally buying or possessing all of these things. If you need proof of the materialism in our communities, look at rap videos. Look at rap videos. The last half of the 48th verse says, "He shall put a yoke upon the iron upon your neck until he has destroyed you." Our oppressors literally put yokes upon our necks, put a yoke of iron around our necks when they brought us here as captives. The above pictures, he still has a yoke around our necks today. The word yoke also means agencies of oppression, subjection, servitude, and slavery. Iron is synonyms with power and strength. Our oppressors have subject and kept us in a power, oppression, and servitude, one that has lasted for over 4 centuries. The Hebrews have been destroyed, and only Yah can reappear and restore us. Verse 49, Yahuwah shall bring, or Yah shall bring a nation against you from far and from the end of the earth, as a swift as an eagle, and fly, a nation whose language you shall not understand. When Moses spoke this prophecy, Moshe, that's his Hebrew name, Moshe, to the children of Yashra or Israel, he was in the part of the word, he was part of the world known as the world known as the Mid East or the Middle East, which is normally northeast of which is really northeast of Africa, so-called Africa, northeast of Eden. It's an Edenic continent. Yah said he would bring a nation from far, from the end of the earth. If we look at all the nations that came against Israel, was Egypt. Egypt had an eagle flag. They're descendants of Hamitic people. Syrians had a flag. Didn't last long. The Assyrians, just like the Egyptians, another world empire, but they were consumed by the Babylonian Empire. Then you had the Medo-Persia Empire. They had an eagle. The same thing in the past. It's really Babylon first, and they consumed all of that. And then Medo-Persia came later. And then Greece, known as Grecia. And I did the stories of Daniel and the prophecy and Esau with the sword. Check those Daily Motion videos out. And Rome today. Rome failed, and then other kingdoms are diverse. These were nations that were situated in and around the Middle East or Mideast. Greece and Rome are in Europe, but we were still close by. Israel was very familiar with those nations and their tongues, but these were lands Israel could travel to by foot, in camel or boat. So where is this far nation spoken of in this prophecy? It's the Western Hemisphere. It's the Western Hemisphere, particularly the United States of America, that people say, or Republic, whatever you want to call it. If you look on any map of the world and look at the so-called Middle East, then look at the U.S. Not only is the U.S. far from the Middle East, but it is actually at the end of the earth. Scripture mentions that this nation is swift as an eagle. It's not a coincidence that the national symbol for the U.S. is the eagle. But when the slave traders captured and came upon the shores of West Africa, the Hebrews didn't understand their language. They didn't understand their language. In the slave narrative by the slave Abdullah Aquina, or something like that, Aquina, whom I've already mentioned, he tells his first encounter with European slave traders. Their complexions too different so much from ours. Their long hair and their language they spoke, which was very different from any I had ever heard. Our people had no knowledge of English or the various other languages the slave traders spoke. Once again, we fit these curses more so than anybody else. Verse 50, a nation on a fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor shall favor to the young. Verse 50 is talking about the nation that is mentioned in verse 49, to the one from the earth, one from the end of the earth. I show you this is the United States, which has had no care about the old or the young. Hebrew Abdullah Aquina also tells of his fears of his captors. I asked him if we are not going to be eaten by those white men with horrible looks, red faces, and you notice they say red faces, right? And long hair. They told me, descendants of Esau, that's who enslaved us, the Edomites. Edom means red by the ray in the Hebrew. Most people don't know that. That's why they're known as the Edomites. They enslaved us. I'm reading this thing on angelfire.com with this information, and you notice it said red face, but told me I was not, but still feared I should be put to death. But the white man, the so-called white man, look and act as I thought it in so savage manner. For I've never seen among any people such as instance of brutal cruelty. I must add to Abdullah was only 11 years old when he was captured and brought to the United States. During the slave trade, the trade in children had become a very profitable business. When these children reached the plantation, they were treated just horrible as an adult slaves. Even now in 2000, the United States is a very dangerous place to live for a Hebrew, according to recent studies. You now have Hebrew children being tried as an adults in the justice system, judicial system today. It's wicked as I don't know what crafty system. You also have about Hebrew adults and children making up the majority of the people on the death row have both Hebrew adults and children making up the majority of the homicide victims. This list can go on and on. This just shows you that there is no difference between the treatment of Hebrew children or the adults. This nation doesn't care for us at all. None of us. And they didn't want to get all the verses of 50. Have you noticed that? Verses 58. It says, if you will not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that you may fear this glorious, fearful name, Yahu, or Yod-Heth Waheth, means Yah. It means Yah, he who creates. Yah, he creates. And verse 59, it says, then Yah will make your plagues wonderful, and the plagues of your seed, descendants, great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sickness, and long continuance. And verse 60, it said, moreover, he will bring upon all the diseases of Egypt, which you say you was afraid, and they shall cleave unto you. Also, every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, them will Yah bring upon you until you destroy it. So, also every sickness, that's what it says. And then these verses are clearly stating that Israel is always going to be sick and disease-stricken people. Today, that we got today, I got to get this part in. How much time I got on part 2? Yeah, I got to get this in. It says these verses are disease-stricken people. Yeah, it's talking about Israel. We are only 12% of the U.S. general population, but we have the highest rate of cancer in the United States. We led in 8 out of the top 10 cancers. Hebrew men have the highest rate of prostate cancer in the world. For every 100,000 Hebrew men, 185 will get prostate cancer. My grandfather died of that. He didn't go to the doctor for it, so he passed away. He was a pastor. He died in 92 when I was 4. He was a former NAACP member. He was a preacher for the Christian church. And what happened to him is people did him wrong, like all the other leaders that you've seen that try to help us. And he helped his people best he can. He was a humble man. I didn't know him as much, but he did a lot for the community. So he was a good man, and may Yah rest in peace in his soul and spirit, and I hope he'll be with us in the near future in the resurrection of the day of vengeance. I hope he comes back if I see him again. He was a great man, and my father explained who he was when I was younger. So of course he went to World War II, and ever since then he didn't want to go to the doctor. So, he's part of the prostrate thing, the disease, so we fit the prophecy today. Okay, enough of that. And it says AIDS. And while AIDS and HIV rates continue to drop in every ethnic, racial community in the United States, the rate of infection continue to rise in the Hebrew community. Hebrews make up 40% of all AIDS causes in the United States. It is the leading cause of the death for Hebrews aged 25 and 44. 55% of all the women with AIDS are Hebrew women. 60% of all the children with AIDS are the Hebrew children. In the year 2001, we have claimed the majority of all the people with AIDS in the United States. AIDS has become such an epidemic in the Hebrew communities across the United States that in many of the 1998 the Congressional Black Caucus, the Hebrew members of the United States Congress has asked the federal government to declare a national emergency in the Hebrew community because of this deadly plague, AIDS and HIV. We are 4 times likely to have Alzheimer's disease than whites, and 2 times likely as Hispanics. It says 2 times likely have Hispanics. Have you noticed he said that in this article he wrote? We also have the highest rates of heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, sickle cell anemia, old disease, and strokes, thyroid tumors, asthma, lupus, and STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. But there's a lot of cure for those, but these governments won't tell you that because, you know, they want us to destroy all that's been planned, though. All these diseases are planned, but that's part of the prophecies that there's no for us to get out of it. We have been plagued with these diseases and sickness ever since we first boarded those ships for centuries ago. In a book called The Black American Experience by our very E. Strickland and Jerome R. Ryack, in page 62, it describes some of the diseases on the slave ships. I'm gonna read it. The filthy slave ships, which with their crowded, ill-fed human cargoes, also were filled with sickness and diseases: smallpox, measles, gonorrhea, syphilis, yellow fever, and malaria. And malaria was common in this country, by the way. It was common in the South, by the way, and all over the world. It was a common disease. Were common disease on these ships. They were. These diseases are on us just as prophecy said they would. I will continually say we fit these curses perfectly. Verse 64. Yah shall scatter you among all the people from one end the earth, even unto other, and there shall serve other idols, like it says, serve other gods, which neither you nor your fathers have knew not, wood and stone, forms of idolatry. Read Deuteronomy 32 and 17. New gods they have knew not. I want y'all to read Deuteronomy 32 verse 17. I don't get it. It says, they shall sacrifice unto idols. I know it says devils in your Bibles, but it says idols. Not unto God and to the gods whom they knew not, to the new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. So new gods that newly raised up, new idols that that was going to be raised up, that Moses was prophesying. So we fit the curses, y'all. We fit the descriptions of the scriptures. But yeah, that shows you that we are descendants of Israel. And 65 says, among these nations you shall find no ease, neither shall the sole of your feet have rest, but Yah shall give you there a tremble heart, and failing of the eyes and sorrow of mind. So where we are at, not 4 corners of the earth, but according to Isaiah 11:11, the nations that we're at, we're going to have these curses. You can read Isaiah 11:11. Yeshua, that's his real name, Isaiah, and it tells you in those places in Isaiah. Most people that don't read this book have knowledge of the Genesis to Malachi, and they've not been illuminated. And it says who's going to be in Assyria, known as Syria today, in Egypt from Pathros, and Cush, known as Ethiopia today, and Elam, that's Persia today, Iran, and Shinar is modern day Iraq, and from Hamath in the Middle East and somewhere, and the islands of the sea. So we're scattered amongst the nation, the 10 tribes that's scattered. And yeah, it says previously stated that the true Israelites have been scattered from east to west. That's right. So we got people from the east and from the west. We on this side we have north to south. They said north to south is the 3 head tribes: Yehuda, Benjamin, and the Levites. Those is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. So that's enough on that. Like I just read in Isaiah 11:11. then there probably isn't a country on earth where Israelites don't represent some percent of the population. The Hebrews can't be back in the land of Israel as a sovereign nation right now. That's right. And at the same time breaking the laws of Yahweh. This is why the Hebrews of the Western Hemisphere are here today. The three head tribes I mentioned. And in these lands where Israel is going to be scattered, and we are going to serve all kinds of strange gods, idolatry, in all ways, and of idols, new idols raised up, like I mentioned, Deuteronomy 32:17, that we knew not. These new gods, new idols that's raised up, and we still worship idols and images and concepts of men today. Israel's ancient forefathers did not know about these gods of religions that Israel is serving today. They didn't know about no Jesus, the wood god, Christianity, the Christian, the Christ, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, Buddha, the New Ageism, and the many gods of Israel was in service to the west coast of Africa. Many of these gods are actually wood and stone gods, like the Mecca, idols and images and concepts of men, and many of them were created after the 70 AD CE, the expulsion of Israel from the land. So there are some of the newest gods on the scene, new idols raised up. But the new gods was not created in 70 AD. That's Titus, they tell you. But it's really in the 300s when we were scattered and to be cut off to be scattered. But we should also remember the wood and stone gods are the same false gods and religions. Or really, should I say, idols and images. Because wood and stone idols cannot talk and hear or speak. In other words, they don't exist. Now we know this could apply to the Jews because, as I've mentioned before, the majority of the Jews are atheists. They don't believe in any idol or believe any deity, they say. The 65th verse states that among those nations where we have been scattered, we will find no ease or rest for our feet. Here in the Western Hemisphere, on this side of the three-head tribes, the Israelites have found no ease or peace, but rather horror and terror. Ralph Ginsburg documents some of the terror the Hebrews have suffered in the United States in his book, Hundreds of Years of Lynching. His book is a compilation of actual press of the accounts of the lynching beginning of 1880 on the 257 it says 257, and then he gives partial approximately 5,000 Hebrews lynched in the United States in 1859, 16, and all ones that's mentioned. So yeah, this is part 2. This is part 2. I don't know if I'm gonna make a part 3, but this is part 2. So with that, I want to say shalom. I'm gonna hit you with a part 3 to finish up the rest where I'm at. So with that, I want to say shalom.